Okay, so this is not a basic modeling course, but I do want to go through some of the modeling that is unique to this project and perhaps some of the more advanced stuff that isn't familiar to everyone. So let's take a look at my finished scene here and what we've got going on inside. And that. Okay, so there's the whole scene right there. And you can see the walls are just created with basic polygons. And I extruded big openings in it for the windows. And I actually closed that window off because I wanted it darker in this other room so that it really has kind of a shadowy feel in the front, and then it opens up into this very bright room. So you can see right now the windows are not modeled. This credenza back here, or buffet, whatever you want to call it, is not completely modeled. It's just kind of a box. So in the finished image I'm using as the promo image, or as the finished result here, this is exactly the model I rendered from, so it's not completely finished, as you can see. So we'll finish some of those things. I want to look a little bit at this wall here and how I created that. Again, the outside is just basic polygons, and I kind of created this one and bridged between them to create a closed off opening, and that's to keep the light out, which is of course important, and that's just the basic shell. And then for these panels, let's look through the view. We can see these panels here. Let's isolate them and take a look at what I did. These are actually very easy to model. Okay, so what I did was I took a box, or a rectangle I should say, standard primitive shapes. Okay, go to rectangle, convert it to an edit spline by right clicking, and then I just created a basic profile like this. We'll say something like that. Okay, and then bring this out and close it off. Close spline, yes. Let's go into the vertice mode and line this all up. Okay, and then take these and make them something like that. Okay, so there's a basic profile. Let's take this and make it a Bezier corner and kind of just do that, give it that little edge. And let's take this up here okay, something like that. All right, so a very basic profile, and then we just took this and we swept it. I have the sweep modifier here, as you've maybe seen in some of my other courses, and if all this is too advanced for you, then you can go back to my other courses, which are more beginner. I expect some sort of knowledge from you from either previous courses or just from your own knowledge of how to model and all the things that I'm doing. So I'm moving through this pretty quickly. Take the edit spline, and you can use sweep right there and use a custom shape. Pick this one we just made, like so. Make sure everything's working right. You can see that there's some weird creasing going on right there, and that's because of smoothing. So we'll want to actually not smooth the path so we get a nice crisp corner there, but we will smooth the section, which is this shape here. We want it smoothed along those lines. Okay, so there it is. Okay, once you have your spline and your sweep made, sweep is just a modifier obviously, but let's convert that to edit poly. Now we can take the borders, and it should be, actually we made it a closed object, so there is no borders. But if we delete these back faces, then we will have a border right here. Borders have to be open, and we will cap it like that. Of course, you could have just made another rectangle and attached it to that poly. I do want it to be all one edit poly because then I can stretch it all together. So now what we need to do is turn on our axis constraints, move only in the X. Of course, the other way to do that is to turn on your gizmos, select X, make sure it's highlighted, or select Y, make sure it's highlighted, right? So I'm doing that via hotkeys. Okay, now that you have that one panel made, you just need to move into place. Well, actually, let's do it right over here. You can delete this now. And we select the entire element and copy it over. Clone to element is what we want. Don't want it as a separate object. Okay, and then we can clone it one more time. And the nice thing about this now is that we can stretch the whole thing together like this. We can make that center panel bigger, right? And then we can even take all three of these elements and copy them down like so. Get them in place with our snaps on. I'm using hotkey S to turn on and off my snaps, as you can see. I really want this at 2.5D snap. Okay, I had a little glitch in my computer and it shut down what I was working on, but that's okay because we were already to this point basically where I'd copied it around with my different edit poly elements. And then you can just take the same thing, take the same kind of panels, rotate them around 90 degrees to make the next wall, and just follow along that outer shell that's created with edit polys to keep the light out, as I said, and just covered in these panels. So for this part right here, that might be the only complicated part, but obviously what you can do is just continue, take these elements, rotate here, 90 degrees, you can see in the bottom, 90 degrees right there, and then go from the top view and just place it like so. Okay, so you can just build up all your walls just like that. These will create really nice panels for you. So that's pretty basic. That's how we did the panels. Let's move on to something else. I think we're going to talk about how I created the floor in this scene.